Hi everyone, this is Manuela and I decided today to make a review of the movie Black Panther. Now, I'm not a fan of movies, but I'm here with my husband on a retreat, and so he was like, let us go watch Black Panther, and just to please him I decided to go. And I was very impressed. I must give it to the producers. I was very much impressed by Black Panther. So the main points that I'm going to hit is what is a fact or what is true with what pertains to the African culture and what is fiction. So the movie starts with a guy whose father died, and his father is the king of Wakanda. Now, just so we are clear, there's no such country in Africa as Wakanda. But when they did the map and the movie, the Wakanda country that they portrayed was next to Uganda. Uganda is an actual country in Africa that is in the east of Africa. So when you listen to the accents of the people, it also sounds like Ugandan accents. And in the whole movie, they have a mixture of different African countries, different African cultures are represented in the whole movie. Like the girl Okoye, who's a warrior. Okoye is actually a Nigerian name. So some of the actors have Ugandan names, some of them have South African names, and from the review of the movie, most of the actors had to make up their own accents. So it's not like, okay, Wakanda is a place and these people speak Wakandan. That does not exist. But I was very much impressed about the fact that from the movie, this guy's father is a king. With the African culture, that is normal. If a king dies, whoever has to succeed him has to be found and is going to be made king, whether he likes it or not. With my country, for example, in the village, the chief, if a chief passes away, his son, wherever the guy is, he's gonna be found and he's gonna take over his daddy. I had the prince of a village called Bana. The prince of Bana was in France. He was studying. When his daddy passed away, they came and fetched him and they made him king. And there is a lot of respect that is given to a king. That is why the part of a movie when the FBI speaks to the young prince or the actual king of Uganda, and he keeps on touching him, the lady gets mad because you don't talk to the king anyhow, you don't touch the king anyhow, and the king is not allowed to speak any other language than his language unless he wants to. When I went to see the chief of Bana, he spoke perfect. I mean, he studied in France, he grew up over there, but when strangers come, he had to speak his language and have people interpret, even though he knew and understood what we were saying. So there's that respect that is given to the chief, and that is just the way it is. So when his daddy passes away, he goes back home, and they have a certain ritual. They have a ritual that they do, and the people are screaming and shouting, and that's incantation. So this is highly spiritual. For those who do not believe in anything spiritual, yes, it is spiritual. So incantations are spiritual. They call upon spirits and ancestors and all that, spirits of dead people. That is very pagan, although it's part of their tradition. It's very pagan. Being a Christian, I know that is what it is. I grew up around seeing things like that in my village, and in most villages that is how it is. Some huts have places where skulls are buried and people keep the brains of dead in there, and they go visit the dead people, and they're dead and gone, and sadly if they're not saved, they'll be in hell. So anyways, coming back to the movie, this is what the guy has to go through in a ceremony where he drinks some extract of a plant that is reserved only for the kings. And when he drinks that extract, he's able to communicate with his daddy who is in the dead world. And funnily enough, I was explaining my husband everything because being an African, I already knew where it was gonna go. I had never watched the movie, but when he died, I was like, he's gonna speak to his daddy in the underworld, and that is also what they do. In the African tradition, when it comes to chiefdom and kingdom, it's something that is very common. Talking with the dead, and I mean, that's very sad. But like I said, it's a dark spiritual side. So talking with the dead, he communicates with his daddy, and that is another fact that is true. aside of that, in the whole movie, the community is all about the kingdom getting together. At the end of a movie, the guy speaks to when he decides to open up with the world. He says we're going to do this to help the world for our brothers and sisters, because that is also a fact. It's an African point of view. Everybody's viewed as a brother and a sister. So that's the reason why they decide to open up uranium for everybody. Now, what I drew up from the movie in terms of what things represent, I'm going to start with uranium. Uranium is, in the movie, it's a very powerful substance that they have that, I mean, the whole world would like to envy, the whole world would want to have, and makes them very powerful because they have a whole lockdown system. They don't need anything else. They don't communicate with any other place else in the world because their uranium gives them everything they need, and they're closed down. It made me think of the president of Libya, the former president of Libya, Muhammad Khadafi, who had a project with a couple of African leaders to make a United States of Africa. But then when he had that idea, he was killed later on in a little riot or a little civil war in his country, where he was given arms by the US government to fight people. And I mean, his people were given arms to fight each other. And in Libya, school was free, education was free, healthcare was free. And after they got rid of the president, today nothing is the same anymore. They had this huge plan, this beautiful plan of closing down the doors of Africa to Westerners and just developing Africa in itself, because Africa is very rich, just as the uranium that was portrayed in the movie. Africa has a lot of resources that if the African continent decided to shut down its doors, they will be the highest developed country in the world. The highest developed continent, sorry. They will be the highest developed continent in the world, and they will really not need external help. They will not need it. But this is what kind of make me think of, the way Africa is rich, and we don't really need a lot of things if we can sit and develop on ourselves. But the reality is what it is, and I'm happy that I saw a lot of technology in the movie showing that this is the direction that things are evolving towards. Even with Africa, there's a lot of Africans who are inventing things every day, and it's not shown on CNN, it's not portrayed anywhere, but it's on Facebook. People who know about it share the great universities that are coming up. Students are doing researches and finding out a lot of things, like a guy who just found out a little plant that cures malaria, and at the end of his study he was rejected by the French people because they did not want him to put it out there. They're making a lot of money by keeping people sick all the time and giving them fake medicine that is not going to help them, but that's going to keep them spending money. So he just discovered a little plant that cures malaria, and he was asked to close his mouth, but he did not, and he's curing a lot of people. There are many people who have found a cure of HIV. So a lot of Africans are working, and what some people only see is misery and poor and poverty and all that. So I really love the movie just because of what it shows that Africans are able to do, or that black people are able to do. And I love the fact that it included somebody else who was the FBI agent, who is a Caucasian, and he learns about these people, and the minute he gets there he's willing to help them for saving his life. It was just amazing to me. It was just amazing to me, and it's very future promising. It's very future promising. It's very encouraging for a lot of black people and the black generation. So yeah, I'm very surprised. Black Panther, you surprised me. So, well, that was it for my facts on what is true in the movie and what is fiction. Of course, all the powers and the robots and all that is still fiction. That is still fiction. But with what regards the resources and everything else, it's a blessing. It is true. It is true. Maybe not for uranium, but for vibranium. Actually, sorry, that's the word. It's called vibranium, not uranium. It's called vibranium. Maybe not for vibranium, but most of the resources over there, that's true. That's true. So, well, that was it for my little review, and God bless you guys.